Greetings, this is Change Radio News. The news read to you by Shamiso. And now for the headlines. MDC Alliance bemoans the economy. Journalist Hopo Chingono challenges the youth. And state-sponsored violence continues in Uganda. And now for the news in detail. The MDC Alliance Vice President, Honorable Tendai BT, has criticized the ZANU-PF government for its handling of the economy. Speaking during a State of the Economy address, Honorable BT said the economy reflects the leadership crisis in Zimbabwe. And this is what he had to say.
The IMF in April 2020 produced a staff report of 2020, which was an indictment. The IMF is normally placid, is very normally complicit. It normally plays around and sugars and butters and puts mascara, puts makeup on dictators. It is desperate to look for success stories. But this is what the IMF said in their staff report of 3 April 2020. Zimbabwe is experiencing an economic and humanitarian crisis. High fiscal deficits financed by RBZ's money creation resulted in severe macroeconomic imbalances and market distortion. The government that came into office following the 2018 elections adopted an agenda focused on macro stabilization. This was supported by a staff monitor program adopted in May 2019, but is now off track as policy implementation has been mixed. Progress on fiscal reforms was overshadowed by costly missteps. That's how so the disaster of Mutuli Ngube, the euphemistically referred to them as policy missteps on monetary and forex market reforms. Climate shocks have crippled agriculture and electricity generation and magnified the social impact of the fiscal retrenchment and current reforms, leaving more than half the population food insecure. Protracted external arrears constrain access to external official support, while additional commercial borrowing has worsened the debt overhang and likely complicated discussion on debt resolution. With another poor harvest expected, this is in 2020. Growth in 2020 is projected to near zero following a sharp contraction in 2019, with food shortages continuing. With no progress on clearing long-standing external arrears, the authorities face a difficult balance of pursuing tight monetary policy to reduce very high inflation and fiscal policies to address the macroeconomic imbalances and build confidence in the currency while averting the crisis. This report of April 2020 effectively put a death knell to the staff monitor program. For all intents and purposes, the IMF, the World Bank, and all the ISIs, together with the development partners, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, the European Union, China, India, all the countries that effectively written Zimbabwe off. And they've written Zimbabwe off because of what they euphemistically dub policy mistake, which in our respectful submission is a crisis of governance, is a crisis of leadership, is a reflection of the broken down social contract. So one of the things, and we mentioned this in our 10-point plan, one of the things that the government has to do, one of the things that the authorities have to do as part of restoring and returning Zimbabwe back to prosperity is to...
During the address, Honorable BT was disrupted by 2 ZANU-PF supporters who were promptly escorted out of the building by other MDC Alliance members, and the address continued. Renowned journalist Hopo Chingono has challenged youth to start fighting for their future. Chingono said this on his Twitter handle. Chingono said it is foolishness to waste time on social media chasing socialites who have looted taxpayers' funds instead of thinking about where water spends, weeks talking about socialites who have looted your taxes and yet go to a home without water and power. Chingono quoted musician Thomas Mapumo, who echoed the same sentiments.
Because they are not even standing up for people's rights.
Meanwhile, Chingono has said that his doctors have told him he needs to get tests done as soon as possible. But he is unable to go as his passport is currently being held by the state. Chingono said the tests can only be done outside the country of Zimbabwe, and Zimbabwe does not have the capacity to do them. State-sponsored violence has continued in Uganda as the run-up to the elections continues. Opposition leader Bobi Wine said the military and police have unleashed violence on unarmed citizens, leaving many with grave injuries. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, popularly known as Bobi Wine, is running against Yoweri Museveni in the 2021 elections. Meanwhile, the National Unity Platform (NUP), formerly the National Unity, Reconciliation and Development Party, which is a social liberal and progressive political party in Uganda, led by Kyagulanyi, will be using the umbrella as its symbol on the ballot paper. Meanwhile, the MDC Alliance Secretary for International Relations, Gladys Latroyo, has urged the Ugandan government to stop the violence against opposition activists. Latroyo said that the MDC Alliance condemns the recent state-sponsored violence in Uganda and called on the international community to take proactive measures to ensure that the situation does not deteriorate and the 2021 elections are free and fair. The MDC Alliance Women's Assembly has released a statement to commemorate 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. In a statement obtained by Change Radio, Women's Assembly spokeswoman Barbara Tanyanywa said the Women's Assembly is concerned about the harassment of civilians by state securities as they tried to demonstrate against the deterioration of services during COVID-19. Tanyanywa said the looting of COVID-19 funds by Obadiah Moyo and other government officials is a violation of human rights as well. Meanwhile, Zenara allegedly lost $21,000, which is about 2 million RTGS, to a syndicate of employees working in its cash office through misrepresentation of money paid for fuel levies. The levy is only payable in US dollars. The looting of funds at Zenara continues despite Emerson Mnangagwa forming an anti-corruption committee to address some of these issues. Mashonaland Central War veterans have requested for the investigation of Kazembe for his alleged affiliation to the now defunct G40 after the recently held DCC elections. In a letter, the war veterans said that the complaint was against the unfair and uncalled for removal of 4 veterans from the provincial leadership chat group. The ZANU-PF factional fights have increased since Mnangagwa came to power. Meanwhile, in another issue involving DCC elections, ZANU-PF political commissar Victor Matema Danta has claimed that he was poisoned during one of the elections. A former finance minister and vice president of the MDC Alliance, Honorable Tendai Biti, has said that the white farmers who were evicted during the Mugabe era are back on their farms on a lease basis. The farmers who were resettled have failed to produce anything and have now resorted to leasing the farms. Honorable BT has called for an urgent land audit to do away with unproductive farm owners. end this bulletin, here are the headlines once again. MDC Alliance bemoans the economy. Journalist Hopo Chingono challenges the youth. And finally, state-sponsored violence continues in Uganda. Do enjoy the rest of your day.